Okay, we're live.
I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone. And we'll start off, Dr. Boston is going to give us our invocation and pledge allegiance, lead us in that.
Okay. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, Lord, it's again and another time, Lord, that we come before your presence. First of all, Lord, we just like to say thank you. Thanking you for all of your many blessings that you've given us down through the years. And Father, we thank you for this time that we have to meet together on behalf of the citizens of Jasper County. Lord, we pray that you would give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we may do those things that are pleasing to you and also pleasing to the citizens of Jasper County. Father, we ask you to bless those right now that are going through as a result of our pandemic. Lord, you know what we all stand in need of. And Lord, please grant us our petition. Father, we thank you for all of these many blessings that you have bestowed upon us, Lord. But most of all, Lord, we thank you for your son, Jesus Christ. And in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, I'd like to thank Dr. Boston for that prayer and leading us in the pledge of allegiance. The next thing on our agenda is approving the agenda for this evening. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. This is Commissioner Smith.
Second.
Ms. Smith made a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second. This is Deborah Butler.
Second by Dr. Butler. Ready for question?
Questions?
Hearing none, all in favor of such motion, let it know by saying aye.
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 Any opposers, let it know by the same sign. No opposers, so the motion is approved. The next thing on our agenda is approving the minutes from our January 12th meeting, 2021. Do I hear a motion?
Move that we approve the minutes from January 12th, 2021.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
It's a motion from Dr. Butler. Second by Dr. Boston. Ready for question?
Question?
All in favor of such motion, let it know by saying aye.
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 All opposers, let it know by the same sign. Hearing none, motion is carried. We've got a zoning map amendment, general commercial request, tax map number 06332-05-028 and 063-32-04-031. Ms. Wagner, would you bring us up to date on this zoning request, please?
Yes, the subject properties consist of 4.60 acres and 4.10 acres located at 1280 Grahamville Road and 8747 Grahamville Road. The applicant has requested a zoning map amendment to have both properties designated as general commercial. Both of the properties are currently zoned residential. A commercial structure is located on 1280 Grahamville Road, and a manufactured home and two stick-built houses are located at 8747 Grahamville Road. According to the 2018 Jasper County Comprehensive Plan, the future land use map identifies this site as urban transition. Your staff report said rural transition, but that was a mistake. It's urban transition, which are pockets of unincorporated Jasper County that are partially or entirely surrounded by the municipality. For these areas that experience new development or redevelopment, consideration should be given to working with the adjacent municipality for annexation. The adjacent parcels are zoned residential and is adjacent to the town of Bridgeland. Adjacent land uses are residential and vacant property with commercial nearby in the town of Bridgeland. The subject property is accessed by Grahamville Road, which is a 2-lane state maintained highway classified as a collector road. From a land use perspective and based on the comprehensive plan, it doesn't support the request for general commercial. I would just like to say that if the request were community commercial, I certainly think that would be appropriate. But the request was for general.
Okay, okay, at this time, we like to hear from the applicant.
Okay, good evening again, Mr. Chairman, and all of you commissioners and council members. We are requesting this because the shop has been a garage the entire time it's been there. We've had a gas station there, we've had a garage there, we've had an upholstery business as well as a bakery. So we have been in good standings in this community, and that building is the oldest building on that road as a business. It is 71 years old this year. And so I think to have to even petition to get to be a business, you know, we've always been understood as being a business on that road, and we came before all of the other businesses as well as all of the other homes. The people who border us are not opposing us becoming commercial because it has been a long-standing business. So we don't have anybody that we are aware of that are opposing us at all to become commercial again. Also, I would like to add the businesses that are in front. If you go just to the west of us, as you're heading back toward Ridgeland, there is a McDonald's and a gas station there, and they're sitting in front of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, or kind of close to it. And this is a part of, I believe, the town of Ridgeland, but they are in that area. They are closer to the residents on that road than we would be. We are not in their proximity at all. And the property actually faces each other on that road. So we would be our own neighbors. We would not have to interfere with the Haywoods or the Richardsons that are sitting directly in front of the McDonald's and the gas station. So we wouldn't really have a direct impact on those people. They're getting more impacted by the businesses that are sitting in front of them now than we would ever be, because we have 4 acres on each side of the road. So we have no problem, and they should have no problem with us. As I said, that building has been there longer than all of the homes on that road.
Okay, do any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant?
I do, Chairman Pinckney. I have one question.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Butler.
Good evening, Ms. Bright. You said that there are currently businesses operating on that site. Is that what?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. They are operating just west of our property. There are 2 properties that separate us from the McDonald's, and those properties are owned by Maureen Thomas and others. Those are my first cousins. And next to our property directly so is Young's Funeral Home. And Ms. Willa Young owns that property and has no objections that I know of to us becoming commercial. We were there. My grandmother deeded them that property at just about the same time my father was deeded the property for that establishment in 1948. And so we've been a mainstay on that road ever since then.
Right. I understood that part, but I thought that you were you mentioned that there was a long-standing business on the property currently being considered.
It was. When my father was killed in 2008, he had been in business there for 52 years. And so how I learned about the zoning discrepancy is that I had applied, I went to apply for a business license so that we could put a business back there, get some rejuvenation going, get some, a business going. And that is when I was told that I couldn't put a business there, even though we owned the garage, because it was deemed residential. And so that is how this question all came about. So for us not to be able to use the business as a business puts us all at a disadvantage, because if the county would allow us to use the building as a business, it definitely would benefit the county, as well as it would behoove us to do the same thing.
Okay.
We don't want to see a building of that size just crumble and deteriorate.
Right. Okay. So there is currently not a business with a county license operating on this property.
Correct.
Okay. And the second question I had is on the application, the reason for the request is because we are currently being taxed at a commercial rate. The county is taxing you for your property. Is that what you're saying? The property tax is at a commercial rate?
We, at least I have been told that we are being taxed at 6%, which is considered the commercial rate. So for us to be taxed at that and not be able to at least open a business is putting us in double jeopardy, because there's nothing we could do except pay taxes on it. And it doesn't help the county, it doesn't help the family, and it doesn't help my father's legacy, who, he literally gave blood, sweat, and tears to put that building there. So we're just trying to operate a business. We're just trying to open a legitimate business, work with the county, be some benefit in that area. My family has always been community minded. We have always done things that aided and abetted the community. We were known for that. And I would certainly assure you that we are not of the ridiculous mindset that we would do something that's radical in that area. We are trying to do the same thing that they did, benefit the county, make a living, and provide jobs for other people.
Okay, so the owners of the property, you are not residing on either pieces of property. That's
No,
not
ma'am.
you're a present resident.
No. In case you didn't know, my father was murdered in the house, and because of that, we have had quite an issue of maintaining the house and getting it all done. That has to be notified if someone rents the house, that someone was murdered in the house. And because of some of the longstanding things that had happened in regards to that, we have not utilized the building to live in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any questions or comments from any other commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor?
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Ms. Bright, just as an anecdote, I remember stopping by your father's place of business with my father back in the late 1960s and early 70s on our way out of town after buying seed and feed at W.R. Grace. Anyway, just a note for the commission. This, to me, is a very good example of what we have discussed previously about our citizens in Jasper County not being completely aware, for whatever reason, of the zoning ordinances. This appears to be a surprise to Ms. Bright that she can't reopen a business that's been there for many, many years, although it hasn't been an active business now in several years. So it's just a note for the record that we need to readdress our efforts to educate the community on these zoning ordinances that have been adopted over the years. Could prevent this kind of situation from arising in the future. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else have any questions or comment?
Mr.
I have
Chair,
one, if I may ask.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Dr. Box.
Oh, let's Ms. Wright finish her statement.
Okay.
I heard the terminology urban transitions, that this property is in the area of urban transitions. And I would like to know, what does that mean, or entitle?
Would you like me to answer that, Mr. Pinkley?
Yes, please.
So in our comprehensive plan, we have a future land use map, that shows basically what we think for future land use within the county. So the urban transition is representative to the properties that are immediately adjacent to the town of Ridgeland. In some cases, they're totally surrounded or partially surrounded. So we do recognize the cities, either the city of Hartville or the town of Ridgeland, as being urbanized. And according to our comprehensive plan, just because of the principles that we adopted to keep Jasper rural, that's why in all of the urban transition areas, we do the comprehensive plan recommends the annexation. But I certainly understand, and I think everyone else does too, that you can make a person annex. So if I could just add, just for future use of the property, whoever were to open a business there, if they require town water or town sewer, they'll be priced at they'll be charged at twice the price of a person who's in the town of Ridgeland. That's kind of how they get you with the annexation. If you need their service, it's provided by the town, and you're not in the town, then your rate for water and sewer is twice as much as a person who's in the town limits. So that's just a consideration for you to know in the future.
Mr. Chairman, may I say one thing?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Bryant.
The property that borders our property, that's going toward Ridgeland on the garage side, is actually owned and is zoned as residential. It is also the next property to it, which is 4 acres, that is owned by Maureen Thomas and others. That is also residential. So we're not bordered by the town.
The property just beyond you's in the town, and the property to the rear of you's in the town. But you're
Okay.
correct, those other two to the west are in the county.
Okay, and I would like to add too, that the property there are 4 acres that sits behind the tax map number 031, is 4 acres that sits back there as 2 separate parcels. They belong to the Benton and also to the Bright families, or either Deborah Austin Bright. Those are also my first cousins that border us on the back side of that property as well. They have no hesitation about either side of that road being commercial. Yeah, they have no reservations about that as well. Now, I would like to ask too, the property that is east of us, that is closer to the funeral home on the side of the house where the houses are. So that ends in 031. How is that particular property zoned? Could you tell me how that is zoned? When I looked at the reference on it, it gave a number and that number said S as in Sam, D as in David, EX21. And I was unsure as to the zoning on that and whether it was to have been considered residential or commercial. It is, I'm not sure about that zoning, and I'm not sure about that number.
I'm not familiar with those acronyms, but that
so
one
I
is
got
in
it
the
on mute.
town of
It
Ridgeland.
says unmute.
So the one east of the where the home site is
Mhm.
in the town of Ridgeland.
It is the town of Ridgeland.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the zoning on that is SDEX 21.
Yeah, I'm not
What
familiar
what
with
what
that.
does that specify, and how does that different? How is that any different from any of the other properties?
So the town of Ridgeland has their own zoning that's very different than ours. I believe that's probably stands for Special District Exit 21. Um, but I can't tell you much about what it means again because it's in the town. It's not zoned through the county.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Boston?
Yeah, I had a question. Lisa, you were talking, you didn't know too much about how the town zonings are. And I was particularly wanted to ask about the McDonald's. What's the zoning for that area where the McDonald's is? Right next
Um,
to, right next to their property.
the one right next to them's residential, where the Young's Funeral Home was. But the
No,
McDonald's,
no, not that piece, but because this piece is also owned by relatives. The zoning for the McDonald's area, do you know what that zone is? Is that commercial?
so the McDonald's is in the town of Ridgeland. It most likely would be in that. I think it's probably a special district exit 21
Which
in the
would be
town.
similar, which would be similar to our commercial?
Yes, they have a bunch of different districts. And like so their zoning's very different. In the center of the town, basically everything's allowed. And then they have layers as you go out of town where their zoning drops some of the uses with each ring around the town, basically.
Okay, what I was really asking is that the similar zoning as to what's already there and what's we're proposing or she's proposing is not that unrelated. In other words, it's very much related to what's already there.
As far as land uses, that's correct. So the staff report's based on the comprehensive plan, just like every other one for the rezoning request.
And I know what you said about the comprehensive plan, and you made a statement that you encourage and you want to consider transition. But the transition or not the transition, does that really have any bearing on whether we grant this zoning or not? I know that's what we would like to happen, but can you force somebody to do something that?
No, you can't force a person to annex. Again, in our comprehensive plan, the way it's written in the urban transition, we encourage them to work with the cities and the towns for annexation because it wasn't our intent we set up certain areas for general commercial, mixed business and industrial. And as you know, there's not a lot of areas in the county that are designated to those, and the rest of the county is basically residential and rural preservation. Then we have nodes for community commercial, and community commercial is supposed to support some of the all of the residential and rural preservation areas, especially in the rural areas. And so I think, just based on the comprehensive plan, you could certainly make a case for community commercial, but it wasn't, our comprehensive plan just did not take in account for having general commercial in the areas except for where we already have them. They were strategically placed, like Highway 17 and the Oakity area and Point South.
Okay, I know I should know this. I've been here long enough. But as far as general commercial is concerned, what is the most negative project you can put in that area under general commercial that would reflect on the area?
Give me just a minute, okay? I'm gonna pull up the use chart and just look at it real quick.
Mr. Chairman.
Adult entertainment.
Mr. Chairman, this is Bill Young checking in.
Okay. We're in the middle of the discussion for this zoning change.
Yes, I've been listening to for the last 5 minutes, so I'm up to speed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to check the use chart because one thing I was worried about, but it wouldn't be allowed in general commercial was I was thinking you know how you can have those cars you take parts off of yourself. I was thinking of that, but that wasn't allowed in general commercial. General commercial allows almost every type of retail. It allows all types of offices, businesses. It also allows manufacturing of paper, but only paper products only as far as manufacturing. Um, it allows wholesale of durable goods and non-durable goods. It allows heavy construction sites, contractors and lay down yards. Mini warehousing is conditional. Um, Under retail, two of the big things I could think of that might not be appropriate there would be like a big lumber yard or a manufactured home dealership, but those usually require a good bit of room too. So,
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Ms. Wagner, is in community commercial, would a garage be permitted?
a garage is permitted. There are some conditions with that, basically where the bays don't face the road. Let me just make sure too. I want to be positive about this. And one other thing that I didn't mention aloud in general commercial is drinking places. But let me check on this garage. So auto repair maintenance, a service garage is allowed. It is conditional. I know we didn't want the bays to face the highways, and I think there is also a requirement to be like 250 feet from any existing residential properties. I'm trying to pull up those conditions. So as far as the conditions for the auto repair maintenance, we do say in the community commercial district, the use shall be 250 feet from any existing residential development, school, or daycare measured from the property line. Openings to the repair bays shall not face road right of ways and shall be designed to minimize visual intrusion onto adjacent properties. Repair and storage of all vehicles shall occur within an enclosed building. Temporary outdoor vehicle storage may be allowed in an outdoor storage area located to the rear or the side of the principal structure and completely screened from adjoining properties and right of ways using berms, fence, and landscaping, buildings, or a combination thereof. Vehicles that are repaired and are awaiting removal shall not be stored or parked for more than 30 consecutive days unless the owner or operator of the establishment demonstrates steps have been taken to remove the vehicles from the premises using the appropriate legal means. All automobile parts and similar materials shall be stored within an enclosed building or completely screened from adjoining properties and right-of-ways using berm, fence, and landscaping buildings or a combination thereof. And landscaping is required for any outdoor storage areas, like one evergreen shrub shall be installed for every 5 linear feet of screened area on the outside of the screened area facing a neighboring property or a public right of way. So those are the conditions.
Oh, did that answer your question, Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ms. Wagner.
You're welcome.
Mr.
Any
King,
other commissioners have any questions or comment?
this is Deborah Butler. I have one comment. May I speak? May I have the floor?
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Butler.
Okay, looking over the permitted businesses and activities, general commercial is the only one that conditionally permits sexually oriented businesses. Like you said, community commercial would not allow that. They would be allowed to open an auto repair. There would be conditions, just like in general commercial. So, I mean, I haven't had time to look at Article 17 to see exactly what that includes. But when we're talking about, Dr. Bostic asked, what potential negative businesses could be located on that site? A lot of people might consider that to be a negative in their community. So I think we should at least consider that. I think your recommendation to look at community commercial might allow them to do some things within their interest. The other thing is the application request specifically referred to lowering taxes. And, you know, I'm certainly no expert on that, but I don't believe that that is going to affect the taxation on that property. Is that right, Lisa?
That's right. The property, so if you have a commercial business or a commercial structure, you're going to be taxed according to that. And then it's based on the value. And as far as the residential properties, unless you live on the property, you pay 6% tax there as well. And then I just want to say, I thought of the sexually oriented business, but I didn't mention it just because one of the conditions, you have to be 1,000 feet away from any residence or church. So I don't think that property could meet that regardless.
Okay. So in effect, that what you were saying is the taxes would actually go up on that property if it's changed from residential to community, to general commercial?
It would not go up, only if the value increases, like if the property, say there's a new building on the property, then yeah, it would go up based on the value only. Or unless the residential property where the houses are, unless the property owner was living there, then that would go down to 4%. But if not, it would be 6%. Or if it goes to commercial and it's being used for commercial, it'll be taxed at 6%.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question or comment from any other of the commissioners?
I have another comment. I think we decided that sexually oriented businesses will not fit on that property based on the distance, so that's not a consideration. The other thing, and this is a point blank question, I know what we're trying to do, I know what we are encouraging, but Lisa, as far as your denial on this, or what you would recommend as the denial, is that based heavily on the fact that the comprehensive plan is encouraging rural transition? Is that the basis of your recommendation here?
Yes, sir. It's based on the comprehensive plan. Yes, sir.
That's the basis of your recommendation. Okay,
Yes,
no
sir.
other factors like their residents nearby, or it would not fit in the zoning. None of that applies. Just the fact that we want to encourage her to go into the town limit. why I asked the question, when we rezone something, is that something I know we encourage, but we can't force?
That's correct.
Okay. Just wanted to know. There's no other reasoning except that.
Well, I
Residential.
mean, like, like Ms. Bright said, on the west side of the property by the garage, it was a funeral home. I mean, it's not being used, but it's a commercial structure. On the other side of that, that appears to be a house, but they have yard sales there, I think, on Saturdays, or not every week, but just sometimes. So that's not being used for residential.
That's the one right next to McDonald's?
That's right.
Okay.
And then across the street, she has there's three resident, the two mobile homes and a stick build on the one across the street. So to the east of her, there is a house, and then there's on the side where the garage is, and then on where the home site is to the east, there's two houses there. I noticed that the one had a for sale sign for commercial, but I don't, it was last being rented out to a family, so I don't know the status there. That's in the town. And then to the west of that property are some residential communities, but they are across from the McDonald's and the gas station, and everything else beyond that is in the town.
Yeah, right across from the McDonald's and the Wendy's, there's a piece of property there that's commercial as well.
That's right. The one on the corner is in the town. The church is not in the town.
Okay.
And then you have the houses there.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
Commissioner Jenkins. Lisa, all the conditions you read to us a few minutes ago, would all of those conditions meet general commercial?
No, I was just there, but didn't look. But yes, except you wouldn't have to be 250 feet away from an existing residence.
Okay. Second question, Mr. Chairman. Lisa, what is the tax rate if there weren't nothing on that property?
It would just be based on vacant land.
Percent.
You wouldn't be being taxed for structures at all.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, Bill
Oh,
Young.
Yes, go ahead.
Remember several months ago, we were looking at a property of similar zoning as what we're talking about now, and we recommended, I think, general commercial or something like that. And when it came back to us, we objected to it. Well, we turned it down again after we had told them to basically apply for that. I hope, and this time, if Ms. Bright plans to, wants to change her request, that we can pretty well assure her that we would approve it. Whether it goes to the county council and for them is different, but thank you.
Okay, everybody had their chance to speak, and I'm
Mr. Chairman,
gonna give you what view I have on that whole quarter from I-95 to go down to even Boston Field Home. That's a whole commercial quarter, and that family, and able for them to get the bang for their buck, it need to be changed from residential, and I don't see any problem at all that be zoning general commercial. I know they would like for them to annex into the town of Ridgeland, but if not that they desire, they don't have to do that. And in the past, we have made requests to the town of Ridgeland and Hardyville with transition on something we was going to do, and they never respond back. When you have written a letter and tell them what was proposed for zoning, and they have not responded back. So it's our responsibility to take care of the citizen of Jasper County. We have a citizen that is requesting a zoning change to general commercial. And even when we did the zoning ordinance in 2007, when we zoned that residential, that was wrong because that area was more considered a business area and than residential. And that was improperly did. We should have, that one should have been catch 10 years ago, but it wasn't. I don't know how that area where that business and that land lies could have been changed to residential, because even though where McDonald's and Wendy's at, that was in the county and it transitioned into Ridgeland, but they didn't give those families that live there any consideration, because where that McDonald's is a resident there, it's within 50 feet. So I don't see why we want to be so hard on this family. My personal feeling, I think we need to go ahead and recommend approval of general commercial and send it to the council that way. I written down there today and I look at it, that area is more adaptable and in harmony with general commercial than it's residential. Everything on that quarter, you give it 5 years, it's gonna be general commercial. Is there any other question or comments before I call for a motion?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Jenkins.
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
I have one comment.
Dr. Butler?
Yes, there just maybe one point. I do think that the previous comment Mr. Smith, I believe it was Mr. Smith, made in regards to consistency and how we approach these is really significantly needed. Because, and when I look at the map, and I'm not clear about where McDonald's is on the map that we were sent, but everything that I can see on this map is residential. And we're going in and we're changing 2 pieces of property to general commercial. That really sounds like, or looks like to me, based on my limited knowledge of this, as spot zoning. And so we talked about that before, and we've had a recommendation to deny changes based on spot zoning. And maybe that doesn't apply here. I'll let Lisa address that. But I do think that we need to be consistent with what we do as much as we can. If this is a mostly commercial area, then it makes sense, but shouldn't we be looking at the greater, rather than piecemealing this together, shouldn't we be looking at the greater property here and maybe making other changes? But anyway, is this spot zoning?
Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor for a second?
I can answer.
I'd like to hear Lisa's answer first.
Well, let me answer. Let me rebut on Dr. Butler first. The right home on that corner right across from McDonald's, that place is used for a business. The next property before that is Young Funeral Home. Then it's the Bright property. If you go right around the corner, they got Boston Funeral Home, they got the Carpet Place, they got the Body Shop. That's a mixed business district. Now, go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir. I'd just like to clarify that was Mr. Young, Dr. Butler, that was speaking of consistency.
Oh.
I personally am in favor of granting Ms. Bright's request.
Well, I'm not expressing the opinion that I am not supporting it. I just think that when people come with similar requests, we need to treat them in the same way if we can. But anyway, thank you. So Lisa, is this spot zoning?
I'm gonna just answer it honest as I can. There could be a case made that it could be spot zoning, but with it being more than one property, there could also be a case made that because there's two, it's not. It's better to do it in a group. From the county map and the county zoning, there are no general commercial properties anywhere there, and general commercial isn't suited to fit in with residential, and that's why we have community commercial. Community commercial is the appropriate bridge for the residential zoning. And back in '07, when that area was made residential, we were operating in the joint plan and agreement that we had with both the town of Ridgeland and the city of Hardyville, which was to grow the municipalities.
And could you explain what would be allowed in community commercial or allowed in general commercial that would not be allowed? Why would we want Ms. Bright to consider community commercial? What would be the advantage to her and to the other property owners?
Well, actually, in community commercial, this is just my opinion. I think it allows too much. It allows almost every single type of retail except for the lumber yards and the manufactured home retail sales. Other than that, every other retail trade is allowed. It's not going to allow wholesale, but it also allows many of the business and offices, doctor offices, law offices, almost any of those types of uses. It allows the mechanic operation, but that is a conditional use. It allows community commercial allows car sales as a conditional use. So there's a lot of things that you can do in community commercial.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Wagner and commissioners, it just came back to my view. In 2007, they had they call what the donut, and anything that was in the county in the donut in that 5 mile radius was not zoned. They was trying to force everybody within the donut to annex within the town of Ridgeland. And even annexing in the town of Ridgeland, it was spot annexation, which doesn't, isn't annexed by road, but property is supposed to be contiguous to each other. So this property didn't get the proper zoning in 2007 when we came up, because prior to that time, we only had two zoning designations, residential and ID, that heavy industrial. So this property, if it was reviewed under the proper standards, it would have been zoned commercial at that time. The joint planning thing have all been break apart, and they don't have the 5 mile donuts anymore. But still, you have these places in that same 5 mile radius been willy-nilly annexing the region when it had not been contiguous to the town of Ridgeland.
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jenkins,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Jenkins.
even on that same side, on the left side where the Bright property is, they just built the new pest control on the left side of this building.
All the commercials in the town of Ridgeland.
Right.
It's Creek Road.
Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to offer a motion if I'm in.
One last call for any comments before we get ready to entertain a motion.
I would like,
No comments. I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Is the floor clear, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Commissioner Jenkins. I offer a motion that we grant Ms. Bright the general commercial changes.
A motion by Mr. Jenkins. Do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
Motion
Commissioner.
has been seconded by Mr. Smith. Ready for question? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call. Mr. Jenkins,
Aye.
by your sign, aye. Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Bill Young,
Aye.
Mr. Randy Wade,
I abstain.
Dr. Boston,
Aye.
and Dr. Butler.
Aye.
All right. That's 5 to 1 abstain. So the motion has been carried and approved, sending a favorable recommendation to the Jasper County Council.
Good.
The next thing on our agenda is discussion, update on permits and
Oh. Dr. Buster. Oh.
sweetheart. You get my phone.
Mr. Chairman,
So, Ms. Wagner, you want to bring us up?
Yes, so I put together, permitted densities because you asked me to at last, month's meeting. So, in your packages is just a chart to show, Delta Bluffs had, 1,305 acres with, 2,255, residential lots and 100 commercial acres that are approved. Frampton tract was 450 acres that is approved for 403 dwelling lots and 119 commercial acres. Osprey Lakes had 64 total acres with 62 dwelling lots. Osprey Lakes is about 65% complete. Telfair Plantation was 563 acres with 88 dwelling units. It had no commercial with that. There's only been 2 houses built on that tract. Rivers Reach, which was formerly the Settings, was 328 acres, 412 dwelling units, no commercial. So I highlighted that just because I wanted to tell you, as far as the approved plats, the development agreement says they can do 412 lots, but the approved plats at this time is only 282 lots. They won't be able to do a third phase without bringing a plat back to the planning commission. There's been no construction there yet, but they are getting close to finalizing phase 1, and they're working on the infrastructure in phase 2 east. Low Country Commerce Park is 222 acres with 575 dwelling units and 131 commercial acres. 14 acres so far has been developed for commercial, which is just one business. And Palm Key had 65 acres, 93 dwelling units, and 2,500 square feet of commercial. One house was built on 35 of those acres, so they don't plan to develop the remaining 35 acres, and that only leaves 30 acres in that planned development district. And then there's the Peninsula tract that was 485 acres. It was approved for, well, you most recently saw that as an amendment to their concept plan, which would allow 1,555 dwelling units and 93 commercial acres. And also the development agreement called for a total square foot of commercial at 2,608,000 square feet. There's been 2 apartment complexes built on 55 acres in that development. And then I listed out the major subdivisions, which is Ridgeland Lakes. It's 81 acres with 139 lots. It's 75% complete. Jamestown Estates is 21 acres, 55 lots, and 15 houses have been built there. Graham Hall has 67 acres with 51 dwelling units, and 43 of those houses are built. So underneath the planned development districts, where you see the total dwelling units, these are the maximums allowed in their development agreement. It does not necessarily mean that they'll be built out to those full potentials. The concept plan that came before you for the Peninsula Tract actually reduced the number of residences that they were allowed originally in their development agreement. For the city of Hardyville, I was able to go online and find their development map, which was very colorful. It was a nice map. It shows you their planned development districts. And there was a snapshot of the total acreage of each of those developments and the residential units that are approved with each one and the total commercial acreage and square foot associated with those developments. Is there any questions on the permitted densities?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jenkins, I have one question, please, sir.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Jenkins.
Lisa, you said something about a 65-acre tract near Palms Key.
Yes.
Can I ask a question? Was that the same property came before us 3 or 4 years ago about a veteran home or something?
That's right. Actually, it's been longer than that, but yes, you're correct. I think they came to you about 7 years ago. It is
Right.
the same property. Yes.
What happened?
The veterans didn't develop it. Again, that planned development district called for 65 acres and someone purchased 35 acres and they built a home there, and they said they didn't intend to build anything else on those 35 acres.
Yeah, I remember that 65 acres came before us maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, and they're supposed to build this big veteran home and do all this nice stuff.
Yeah, I guess they just didn't have an end user after the veterans didn't use it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, anyone else have any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Wade.
Lisa, the Palm Key, that's 65 acres, that don't include the already developed Palm Key
That's
development,
right.
does it?
It does not. No, sir.
Okay, all right. That's all I need. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
I had to step away a minute.
Yes.
Lisa, could you tell me where we're at?
But we were just going over the permitted densities. So I provided you with a little chart that I put together of the county plan development districts and the major subdivisions. And I provided you with a development map off of the city of Hardyville's website.
Okay, very good. I didn't have any questions on that. Was there anything else I missed?
Not yet. No, sir.
Okay, because I got a big one for you, Lisa.
Okay. We hadn't gotten to the annual reports yet.
Okay.
If there's no other question on A, we can go to annual reports.
Okay, I provided you with the Jasper County Planning and Zoning Year-End Report. This covers all of our planning fees, and I listed out the major and minor site plans. So there were 9 of those. The total fees that the county received from that's $23,256. There were no master plan submittals this year. There were 125 exempt plat fees. totaling $3,000. Zoning permits were 283 permits were issued. That totaled $34,375. There were 3 special event permits, which totaled $325. There were 7 zoning map amendments. That was $1,050. 2 variances at $300. 79 zoning certificates totaled $1,975. Only 1 request for a zoning letter, which was $75. There were 9 publications associated with the 7 zoning map amendments and the 2 variances. That was $900. There were 4 clearing permits issued at $600. And then I listed the review fees. That goes in escrow, so that really doesn't go into the county's general revenue funds. That is held in escrow, and it's used to pay for their development. So that covers plan review, where we pay. We consult with an engineer firm to do the plan reviews. That was $35,000. There were 3% site inspection fees. That money was set up in escrow and used to pay the engineer consulting firm to do the site infrastructure inspections, and that was $42,586. And the site restoration guarantees are just those are cash we collected, but that will be refunded at the end of those projects. That was in lieu of bonds. So it shows our revenue total at $175,629, but that includes the escrows and the site restoration. So it's item C, the all other fees. That's actually really just the fee amount that it's $65,896 that actually gets deposited and turned over to the county. That eventually becomes general revenue. I didn't do a comparison of those because as I was putting this report together, it was so similar to last year, right down to the same number almost of exempt plats and zoning permits. We made $5,000 more in planning, but I was amazed. The number of plats, the zoning permits, and everything like that was within just a few numbers of each other as of last year. Moving on to the building permits, we issued for 2020 100.
Can't hear you, Lisa.
Lisa, you're muted.
Sorry, I accidentally hit my pad and didn't know it. So the construction value of the new single family residential is $30,183,735. There were 7 new commercial permits issued. The permit fees were $58,243. That reported value is $5,819,467. There were 44 permits issued for existing commercial improvements. That adds a value of $1,751,095.
You're muted again, Lisa.
I'm sorry, I'm barely touching this thing. There were 231 existing residential improvements permits issued. For that reported value is $3,915,470. There were 89 mobile home permits issued, and 63 other permits issued that really didn't carry a value. So on the second page, we kind of sum it all up.
But on that bottom number,
Yes, sir.
the math is incorrect on that.
On the bottom number,
Where it said 416 million. is 41 million.
Yeah, 41 million.
On the last sheet that you gave us was 2017, 18, 19, and 20, you got 416 million.
Oops, sorry about that.
That's the
I'm
big one.
glad you caught that though, so I can fix it. That is a mistake.
Thank
Okay.
you, beat me to that. That was my thunder.
Oh my goodness, thank you. I need to fix it. Okay. I guess I was either getting tired or getting happy. I'm not sure.
Oh, Dr.
I did put together the comparison just because I thought you'd be interested in it, and I was too. So you can see we wrote quite a bit more of residential permits in 2020 as compared to 2019 and 2018 and 2017. There wasn't a lot of difference, but the mobile home numbers went down, and I thought that was good. Did you have any questions about permits? We have one more report, and that's just the annual report of the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals.
I know it's kind of hard for you to remember, Lisa. I noticed that in 2017, we did about $102 million in commercial versus 5 million or something this year. You know what happened in 2017?
The solar farm. I
Oh.
thought that was wrong, and I stopped to look it up. I said, "What is wrong with this?" And it was the solar farm that had a huge value on it. Yes, sir.
Okay.
If there's no questions, I'll move on to the annual reports for the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals.
Lisa, did they ever finish that solar farm in Turkey Hill? Didn't they put one there?
No, it came before y'all and it went to the county council, but then it never even finished going through the process of the council. So no, sir.
So what they did, they quit with it?
They just pulled it back for some reason. So, maybe we'll see that again. But like I said, it never even finished through the process of the county council.
Okay, thank you.
So the reports for the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals are straightforward. We're required to provide county council with a report of these boards each year. So I just listed out each month, what came before you. In January, we had the election of officers, and we reviewed the mobile home park, the Hill mobile home community. In January of last year, no action was taken on that. They came back before you in February. The Planning Commission granted zoning approval for a 20-lot mobile home park. In February, there was a zoning map amendment, a request to change the zoning from community commercial to general commercial. This is at 11578 Speedway Boulevard. This was Mr. Bronco Bostic's property. The Planning Commission recommended approval. We reviewed a major subdivision preliminary plat approval of North Point subdivision for phase 1, consisting of 33 lots. The Planning Commission granted conceptual approval. And also that month, we had a zoning text amendment to Article 11:7, the conditional use regulations, and Article 9:3 for cessation of non-conforming uses of land, buildings, and structures. And this was to require financial securities for recycling and recycling sites, and the Planning Commission recommended approval. In March of last year, we just had one zoning text amendment that the Planning Commission recommended approval. This was for Article 5:1, establishment of zoning district, 5:3 primary districts, Article 6:1, table of permitted and conditional uses, and Article 7:3, the schedule of lot area, yard and setbacks and densities. And this was to add in the residential Ridgeland Lakes as another zoning district. In April of last year, we didn't have a planning commission meeting. In May of last year, the planning commission just had one zoning map amendment to request to change the zoning from residential to rural preservation. This was at 670 Stellars J Road. A motion was made in favor of the rezoning request. However, the motion died because no one seconded it, and we never did see that application again. In June, there was a zoning map amendment at 2555 Plantation Drive. The request was to change the zoning from residential to industrial development. The planning commission recommended denial. Oops, and I see that I didn't print the second page to that. That was just how it came to the printer. Obviously, I'm sorry about that. Does you does y'all's report not include a second page either?
No, ma'am.
The one I emailed to you should have, because it would have come straight from. I'm sorry, I'm pulling that up now. Oh, I know what happened. That's the PDF when I scanned it in and didn't hit the second page. So also in June of last year, we had a zoning text amendment to the Jasper County Land Development Regulations Section 2, and this was to add in conceptual review for major subdivisions. Planning Commission recommended approval. In July, we had a zoning map amendment. An application came back to us again for 2555 Plantation Drive, and that request was to change from residential to general commercial. Planning Commission recommended denial. In August, we had a zoning text amendment to allow animal shelters in the rural preservation zoning district. So Planning Commission recommended approval of that. September of last year, we had a zoning map amendment to request, there was a request to change the zoning from residential to rural preservation. This was at 1970 and 1972 Floyd Road, and that basically was the property owner wanting to do the animal shelter, and Planning Commission recommended approval. We also in September had the concept plan map amendment to the Peninsula Plan Development District. Planning Commission recommended approval of that request. And then in October of last year, we had the road name petition. Planning Commission approved the road name to have a road name Councilwoman Barbara B. Clark Drive. In November, we had another road name petition for Wolf Way, and the Planning Commission delayed approving the road name until such road is constructed. And in December of 2020, we had a busy month. We had two zoning map amendments. One was at 12336 Speedway Boulevard. It was a request to change from split zoning of residential and community commercial to community commercial. The Planning Commission recommended approval. The other one was for a property at Alligator Alley. It was split zone, and they requested to change that from residential and community commercial to community commercial. Planning Commission recommended approval of that application. There was a modification of a legal non-conforming use application at 2555 Plantation Drive. The Planning Commission approved the request to change the use from a heavy site contractor to a pump assembly fabricator. And there was an amendment to the Jasper County Code of Ordinances, the Jasper County Zoning Ordinance, and the Jasper County Land Development Regulations to adopt driveway standards. And the Planning Commission recommended approval of that. And also, the Planning Commission approved their schedule for 2021. The Board of Zoning Appeals only had two requests. In February, they received a request to reduce the setback requirements, to reduce the highway corridor overlay district requirements, and the landscaping requirements, and they asked to increase the sign regulations maximum height. This was for the Speedway convenience store that'll soon be coming to the corner of Pearlstein Drive and North Oakity Highway, Highway 170. Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals did approve their request. They reduced the setback along Pearlstein Drive from 35 feet to 25 feet. They reduced the highway buffer along North Oakity Highway from 50 feet to 46 feet. And they reduced landscaping requirements along North Oakity Highway from 14 required overstory trees to 9 overstory trees, from 16 understory trees to 10 understory trees. But they denied the request to increase the maximum sign height. And then in October, we had a variance request for the Highway Corridor Overlay District buffer requirements. The BZA denied the request to reduce the highway buffer. The applicant here was Enrique Lopez, and this property was at the intersection of Strain Road and Speedway Boulevard in Hardyville. That's all I have.
Any question or comment for Ms. Wagner? Here none. Ms. Wagner, I have a question. On these planned development, when they got a development agreement, all that is handled at county council level?
Yes, sir. So as you know, when they come in and if they come in and request the if it's a new plan development district, then the planning commission reviews it because it's a rezoning. But the development agreements are approved by county council and negotiated by county council. Once they get their development agreement approved, the next step would be master plan approval. So master plan approvals do come to the planning commission for approval. We just haven't had very many. A lot of these planned development districts have not built yet, but you've seen a few. And then after the master plan approval, the next step is the development plan approval, which is basically done at staff level. We send those out to the consulting firm that Jasper County uses to do the engineering review on the development plan approvals.
So what happens when it's a planned development and they got a development agreement and that whole development get annexed into like Ridgeland or Hardyville?
So far we discouraged that, like with the Peninsula Plan Development District, they wanted to go into Hardyville, but we told them you can do whatever you want here at the county level because they have a legal binding agreement with the county. The other ones that were annexed early on, those were actually done during that joint planning agreement and during the time that the municipalities were acting as the zoning administrators for Jasper County. So those development agreements are really with those municipalities.
Okay. I have one other question. Within the county in the rural Jasper County, as commissioners, what part can we play in all the trash that I have noticed to develop throughout the county?
That's a good question. We, from the code enforcement issue, we're trying to address those things. Maybe it would be helpful for the planning commission, to express concern, make awareness to the county council. We have been able, I know there's Make Jasper Beautiful. Miss Lynn Bowles has been working on that, and I know that she's really good at that, but there is a lot of trash, and it's overwhelming, to tell you the truth. I went to Bluffton this weekend, and I noticed Highway 462 just before where they turn into the landfill, just how bad it is. Waste Management had been cleaning that area up for a good while. I don't know if because of coronavirus, if they're behind or if the county needs to reach out to them. But
Well, not only 462, I know a lot of areas. I have never seen it this bad in Jasper. Trash, I mean, galore on the roads. And in some places, bags of trash and trash scattered. We have lost our way.
and I know that Dale Terry.
Any other commissioner you have seen what I've seen?
Yes, sir. I've seen it. It's very bad countywide.
Mr. Chairman, am I in place to say something? Commissioner Jenkins?
Yeah.
The reason why Jasper County is so bad, see, Beaufort County used their county department to clean up their roads, and I also think they're contracted with the greenery. And that's why Beaufort County looked so good, because their county employees clean up their road and clean up their trash. Now, I don't know what we can do by Jasper County doing that, but that's the reason why Beaufort County is so clean the way they are, because they are contracted with the greenery and their county employees are out there cleaning their trash offside their road.
I think Hardyville does that too. The city of Hardyville, I see their
Right.
stuff.
So Jasper County needs to catch up. I don't know what we can do to catch up, but all those counties are beautiful because they have paid employees cleaning up their trash.
I believe the town of Ridgeland does something similar as well. Their employees will pick up trash if
Right.
it's notable in the town.
It is a horrible problem in Jasper County. And there have been people in pockets working on it for a number of years. My husband and I picked up trash just to clean up our neighborhood for years. I don't know what the answer is, but Lynn Boyles has been trying to head up something for a while. And there have been some activities that have been conducted in the county to bring attention to it. But just like everything else, education needs to be a component of that. I think it's a good thing to get into the schools. There are people here that, don't have the same value of keeping the community clean that you've expressed, Mr. Pinckney. And so they don't see the problem throwing trash out of their car as they drive by. And so I think starting with our young people and doing some education wouldn't be a bad idea, getting them involved.
Yeah, it's terrible. I would recommend we just send a friendly note to council to be aware of this and ask in what way we could help out to get some of this cleaned up.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
I know with the county maintenance at one time, they had Mr. Orr. He was working with the county, and on weekends, any of the trustee with the prison system, he used to have 10 or 15, and he cleaned up roads and all over the county. But since he retired, they're not doing that anymore. And I'll tell you, in lots of areas, it's terrible.
It is.
Mr. Pinckney, the prisons still do it, but they only do it on Saturdays. And I remember 10 years ago, we had adopt a road programs. People were adopting their roads and keeping it clean. I don't know what happened to that.
I think that's a state project, isn't it, Lisa?
Adopt the roads.
Right. They had a project, and it went well for a while. People, and they had signs, I adopt this highway, the Jenkins community adopt this highway, the Pinckney community adopt this highway, and it worked for a while, but I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah.
Mr. Pinckney, are we in open discussion now?
Yeah.
I would like to ask Lisa a question, if I might.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Buck.
Lisa, the mobile home park down on Church Road in Hardyville, there was a wooden fence put as a barrier between the people who had built those homes on the immediately facing the school, West Hardyville High School. We used to be. There were homes built there, stick-built homes. Then somebody came in and put a mobile home park behind them. And so there was a wooden fence put up to give those people a break from the mobile home park. Was that something required for that? Because that fence is in horrible condition, and it provides no buffer between those residents that live there and the mobile home park anymore. And I just wondered if that was a requirement for them to be able to put that mobile home park in.
That was done so long ago, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look at the ordinance that was in effect at that time.
Okay, is that something I could request that you do? Those people that live there have no buffer anymore. It's really sad that what's happened and it's not been kept up. So if it's possible, I'd like to know that and to see what can be done to improve the situation for those folks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Payton, I just want to make a comment to what's been being discussed about the litter. And it's good to have people to volunteer to do things like clean your roads up and stuff like that. But like we were saying, and somebody said earlier, they have to have somebody designated to do this. And they have to have enforcement of people who neglect and throw things beside the road. If they don't have enforcement and they don't have somebody routinely scheduled to go out and make sure these roads are clean and clear, it's not going to happen. And the county council has to have that as a priority. And if they don't, it's not going to happen. That's the bottom line. If they don't see it as a priority, it's not going to happen. Volunteers is not going to solve the problem.
Dr. Bassett, we have a litter control officer.
Do we have a litter control officer, Lisa?
Yes.
Mr. Dale Terry was named as that, but then they hired, when they moved everything over to the code enforcement officer, that was part of what he was supposed to be doing too. And I do know that the deputy who worked on that, I know that he did catch somebody litter, and I think there was a citation issued for court. I'm not sure, I wasn't involved in that. And I think Mr. Terry's given out a citation as well for the litter. So,
you know, we have to do that, because if we don't do that, it's going to be an ongoing problem. And enforcement has always been the problem. And until we get enforcement, these things are going to continue to happen. And not only enforcement, I don't know if I saw this here or where, but when people are cited, they actually put their names in the paper. You know, I'm serious. We used to have it where people would commit a crime or whatever, and they put their names in the paper. So this person was guilty of this and that and that. So you'll educate people a lot if you get their names in the paper. Litter boys. That's a lot of education. But you got to be tough on it. If you're not tough on it, it's not going to happen.
Eleanor Brinkley or Ellie Carson.
But I think it would be nice if we bring it before the council so they can take a look at it and come up with some solution that if they want us to put together a project, something that might work for the county, then we'll do it, but just let them know that we are aware and it just don't look good throughout the county.
And I say this backing up a little bit. Now, we have put this before the council before with this code enforcement officer. And now a lot of his job is a part of that as well. But the point is, they hadn't moved too far from that letter we sent them the last time.
well, part of that is we have a whole new sheriff
Well, I
department. A lot of change, not just the sheriff.
I
So,
understand that as well, but just because you got a new sheriff or you got a new coroner, some things ought to be in place.
yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to say, I don't even know if that other officer that's supposed to be the code enforcement officer, I don't know if he's the code enforcement officer. I don't know if he's still there. I don't know. We have, when I say we, some of the county staff has been speaking to the new sheriff to address the code enforcement. I think he's just had a lot of issues, and then I know he's had employees out with the COVID, and so
Okay.
I put together a list of some of the issues. So we intend to talk and all, but we just haven't yet. But it's
Okay.
not like
Mis-
we're just not doing it.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jenkins,
Yes, Mr. Day.
I'm gonna try to be short, Mr. Chairman. Lisa, when did we hire this new code enforcement officer? Last year in what, October, September?
I don't think he actually got hired till like January 2019, and then he had to go off for some training. So he really probably didn't get started till April or May of last year.
So,
I think the money was put in the budget July 1st, the year before 2019. I'm pretty sure.
What's up?
my next question is, we have somebody on the payroll that still doesn't know his job description, that still not know what to do. I think a couple of months ago, the administrator came before us and he told us that he was looking into that and make sure that, that this guy knew his job description and, and get done. But I'm just concerned that I don't want the new sheriff think we putting this on him. And I think this guy had mostly 6-7 months under the old sheriff department. And I think it's strange. I don't know where in the world that somebody can be on job for a year and still doesn't know his job description and getting paid and still doesn't know. And we're still having these issues that we discuss every month. I think some of these issues, if this guy would really, know what he's supposed to do, I think a lot of these problems could be solved. I just have a problem with somebody on the payroll for almost a year and still doesn't know his job description. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You finished?
Yes, sir.
What I'm saying, the code enforcement is one thing. The other thing that I'm speaking of, the trash that's already down, we have to come up with a method to get it cleaned up. I know the code enforcement officer, the litter officer, but I mean in several areas over the county, the trash is already there. We have to come up with a way to get it cleaned up. And that's what I want to recommend the county, is what solution they have of getting all the trash that's already down on our roads and those side roads that need to be cleaned up. And the code enforcement officer can prevent it from happening after it's been cleaned up. But right now, the horse is already out the barn.
Yeah.
Well, I do think we should take a model. I'm not the one that always say Jasper County should do what other counties do, but I do think we should take the model like Hardyville, Beaufort. I do think Beaufort use a lot of county employees. I don't know if we have to hire more staff, and most of Beaufort is contract out to the greenery, and I meant they keep their roads and stuff beautiful. So that would be my suggestion to the county. Maybe give the county and another employee, and give them that job. But it could be done easily if we can get the manpower. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion of
Hearing none, entertain a motion that I didn't hear you, Dr. Boston.
I was going to do what you just saying right now. I'd like to make a motion that our meeting come to a close.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and properly second. We stand adjourned to our next scheduled meeting in March.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good
Everybody
night.
have a great week and get prepared for Valentine. All you men and do something real nice for your bride.
Good night, and thanks for the reminder.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.